Lights good, sound
Yeah,
good.
sound good. Lights fantastic.
Do we know it's recording? Yeah.
It's
Okay.
recording. When did you decide to start your own guitar store? And why?
And why? Yes, why did I decide to open up my own guitar store? It started with the invention of my special signature guitar called Mastercaster. It's like roughly like a Strat style looking guitar with a 24 fret neck, lots of pickups and all kinds of sounds. I decided to have this guitar built for me because in the studio I'm playing so many different sounds. I play all the overdubs, I play the basics. So, I use Gibson guitars, Explorers, Les Pauls, Strats, Telecasters. And when we go out on the road and I'm on stage, I only have the two hands. So I have to reproduce all the sounds that I recorded in the studio. So I tried to get Boris Domanger, who's like my guitar maker, get him to build something where I can reproduce all the sounds with one instrument from all the songs of the long Scorpions discography, and therefore I came up with that guitar. And as soon as I went on stage with it, I had so many people asking me. The first one was the zebra stripe one with a very flashy look. They asked me, where can I get it? And they wanted to buy it from me. They didn't want to order it directly from Boris. So after a while I thought, what can I do? I cannot invite everybody to my house, especially not when I'm on the road, so I won't be there. And that's why at some point in the summer of 2007 we were playing in Augsburg, which is not too far away from Munich, where we are right now. And a friend of mine told me there is a music store, it was almost like a porn store where you're buying, selling, trading used instruments. And the two guys wanted to retire and wanted to give up their store. And I looked at it. It was total chaos. And I still liked it. I liked the area, I liked the street. Nice address, Parisian Street, Paris Street. And I said, okay, I buy it. So I bought the whole store with all the crap that was in there. Some of the stuff was very good, some vintage instruments. And then we cleaned it all out within the first 3 months. And then I closed the store and we renovated it, a new wiring, new everything, new carpeting, specially designed with my logo. And, we made it really nice. The stage behind me, where bands have been playing. For the opening, the Scorpions were here to play. Last year they were here again. And so it's been a lot of activities. And that's the story of the store. And that's why I had to have a neutral place where people can meet and check out my signature instruments. That was the initial thought. But meanwhile, it turned into a music store with all kinds of guitars and all the brands, and new and used and vintage and ukulele and kiddies guitars and everything.
That sounds just like a real music store.
Yes, but we have no drums, no keyboards, no brass, no bullshit.
Like in the mess in Frankfurt, when you walk into one of the big rooms with drums, you go
Save me from the percussion room. I know, it's like 20 people in the same room trying hi-hat cymbals.
Yeah.
I mean, you walk in deaf, you walk out with bleeding ears.
Shit, yeah. I went there a couple of years ago. Never do it again. You have to be a drummer to like that stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Jabs. So before you were joining the Scorpions, you played in a couple of other bands, Lady, Fargo, and Deadlock. The transition from that to actually replace John Lee Roth in 1978. How did that actually make you feel, and how was that established?
Yes, I played at local bands in Hanover, and we were playing all over Germany, though. Starting out with Deadlock in 1975, I went to Fargo in 1976, and also within 76 I switched to Lady. a band that were like consisted of members from Jane, which was like a very popular band at the time, keyboard player and drummer, and so we were also working a lot for television. So I got like a little bit of experience how to act in front of the camera. I forgot everything about it, and. And so that was a good experience for me. We went to the studio, we recorded something. So when I joined the Scorpions, only months later, I had at least a bit of experience regarding recording and camera work, which was good, which was helpful. And yeah, at some point, Rudolf Schenker called me and said if I wanted to join them in the rehearsal room for a jam session. I said, yeah. Let's go. And we played a few songs, all Scorpions material from the 70s. And at some point he called me again and he said if we want to like rehearse. And then meanwhile, because I knew Uli John Roth very well, like his younger brother Jochen and me, we went to school together. We grew up in the same area outside of Hanover, and we played guitar together. So I knew that he had quit the band, and the second time Rudolf called me was for like a real rehearsal. What I didn't know though was that before I played with them, they went to London to rehearse with like 140 guitar players, like 12 hours a day, 3 days, more or less around the clock. And I think it was recommended by Herman, who had lived in, our ex-drummer, who had lived in London, and he thought that's where you find the best guitar players. Obviously not. And so then I rehearsed with them, and then they said, yes, you're the new guy. And since then, I'm in the band sitting here talking about it 38 years later.
That's fantastic, if you think about it.
Yeah. It's a long time.
It's a long story.
But it's, you know, as they say, time flies when you're having fun. It doesn't feel long at all. It feels fresh and young, and the memory is absolutely complete. When the band sits together and talks about the old days, or first time to America, or whatever in '79, or to Japan, you know, especially those stories from the very beginning, they really stuck in your mind. And we know every detail about every trip, and it's fun to talk about it.
And when you're playing in a rock and roll band, you know, it's not rocket science, then you experience a lot of funny stuff.
Absolutely.
And what happens on the road stays on the road. So Scorpion was one of the first bands who had 2 B players. It was a kind of trademark with Rudolf and his brother Michael. You never choose the V guitar. You choose the first one was the Strat, and then you choose the Explorer.
Yes, I mean, very simple reasons. I played the Strat just because, you know, I like Stratocasters until today. I played it because, you know, I really love Jimi Hendrix a lot, and you know all those greats. Richie Blackmore I listened to, Jeff Beck, and everybody played Strat at the time. You know, in the 70s, it was like either Strat or Les Paul. Very few SGs, very few Flying Vs, almost no Explorer. So when I picked up the Explorer, I did it because I needed like a humbucking sound. Les Paul was too heavy for me at the time for the stage, and the cutaway is not good enough. And also I needed to have like a counterpart to the Flying V of Rudolf. And Flying V and Explorer really look very fleshy. Those are the 2 most fleshy guitars Gibson ever made. They are the originals for all the guitars that came later, the Heavy Star shape or whatever. Those 2 guitars, yes, the futuristic ones from the late 70s. I think the first prototype of the Explorer, I saw one day. It was from 1957, and they were like published in 1958 and built also in 1959. Very few Explorers, super expensive today if you find an original, and there are so many fakes around, be careful. And Flying V, a few more, or a lot more, but still very valuable. And so I picked the Explorer because of that. So it gave the band a look, right away. And I think for many years I was the only halfway popular guitar player with an Explorer, until I extended it in the late 80s when I recommended Gibson to build me a guitar that has more frets but less body size. So that's why the Explorer 90 is the one I'm playing today. Yeah. And
but you were surrounded by V guitars.
Yeah, I mean,
so you stroke back with your.
Yeah, I had. Yeah, it was like a counterpart, so to speak. I mean, Michael played the Flying V when he went to UFO, and Rudolph always played Flying Vs as long as I can remember, and he's got plenty. So all he has is Flying Vs, hundreds, I guess. And from all different periods, and he has also, I think, at least 4 1958 Flying Vs, very nice. And I've been surrounded. The first time I saw a Flying V, and it was really like a very flashy picture from Johnny Winter. I had this poster in my room, and in a very tiny little room. And I went to school, and learned how to play guitar. I'm self-taught. And I had this poster, this famous poster, Johnny Winter with the 1958, where you see this rubber piece for a good reason, even though that doesn't work. The Flying V has a problem. Here's the one, with the Jimi Hendrix painting, hand-painted guitar. A Flying V, it's very, looks flashy, nice on stage, but very good to play. But to play it sitting down is a problem. Because if you go like this, as you wish, then it slides down. That's why the 58 in the beginning has this piece of rubber here, so that's it's supposed to stop it from sliding down. But obviously, gravity is much stronger than this little piece of rubber. And so that didn't work. But, to sit there, I see Rudolph in the studio, and he sits like this. It's not very comfortable. And it's very hard to have your body groove while you have like a shovel like this between your legs. And an Explorer is much more comfortable. And in the studio, you do sit down. When the band plays together with drums, then, okay, you stand up and like in a rehearsal room. But we, for many, many decades, record in the control room and everybody's sitting down. You can't stand up for 12 hours, then your energy goes into your legs. And, but you want the energy here on the fretboard. And it's a very nice looking guitar. This one here especially, I think, and this little maestro thingy, Yep. We got a knob here to stop it.
That's why the knob is there.
This knob is to stop it the other way around. Anyway, it's a great invention. And it's a very good sounding guitar. Yeah, it's nice to move around. It's light. You don't need a guitar stand. It stands by itself. Very good. But I picked the Explorer for various reasons. To have a nice band look, 2 guitar players, 1 Explorer, 1 Flying V, and also it's more comfortable to play for me, especially when sitting down.
At the look and the sound, because the sound from the Explorer and the sound from the
V
guitar is a little bit different. Right?
It's definitely different. I mean,
it's more mid sounds.
Yes, I mean it also depends a lot on playing. If I think you give different guitar players the same guitar, you will get a different sound to begin with. And but it's a nice matching sound. Rudolph and I really created a sound that is now the typical Scorpion sound. You can tell, whatever album it is, we created it in the late 70s, early 80s, especially with the release of Blackout in 1982. I think that's when everybody knew this is the Scorpion sound.
Have you ever played the V guitar when you played with Scorpions?
Yes, I played the V guitar in the studio. I tried. This one here. And I used to own a couple of medallions from the early 70s, very nice sounding guitars. Yes, I did, for a couple of solos. And I remember only recently we were rehearsing, and I was expecting, the crew had set everything up, and But there was none of my guitars in the studio. So we played the set, and I borrowed one of Rudolph's. So, but we were standing up. So, if you sit down, you can't play the guitar.
It's funny because James Hetfield or K.K. Darling were talking about how easy it was. It just fit on your lap, and then you could play.
Yeah, I'll show
Maybe
you.
they got wrong legs or something?
No, but it's like, I don't know, it makes you stiff.
Yeah.
Because you have to also concentrate that you're holding the guitar with your legs. If I have a good-looking guitar, for example, this here, it's like much more comfortable. You can groove, you can move, you can do whatever you like. It's sitting here by itself. It's so well balanced.
Because it got the shape.
Yeah, and it has this here, so you can rest it on your upper leg, which is like now I can move both hands. And with this, I have to squeeze it into.
You have to struggle.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know. It's like now, what do I do? It's like,
Yeah. Don't drop it, please. Yes, not so many. So, I have to ask you, when you grew up, who was your guitar heroes at that time? You mentioned Johnny Winter.
Yes, my guitar heroes were the guitar greats from the 60s and 70s. I listened to a lot of blues, learned a lot from Johnny Winter. Hendrix is my all-time favorite until today. He's got some magic nobody else has, no matter how good they are. He's got something that's so influential and so unique that it's, he stands alone. But I also listened a lot to Deep Purple with Ritchie Blackmore. When Deep Purple and rock came out, was when I started playing guitar. Funny thing, in 1982, we played together with Rainbow in the US, and we had this big radio hit, No One Like You. It was like all my harmony lead guitars. And Ritchie Blackmore came to the dressing room and asked me how I played the harmony. And that, to me, was pretty good. Anyway, he's a nice guy. We met a lot of times later. And
Did you show him how to play the harmonies?
Of course. I couldn't say no. And who else? Jeff Beck, like very stylish guitar player. And of course I listened a lot to Eric Clapton with Cream, like White Room, one of my favorite songs. It was basically all along the Watchtower from Hendrix that made me play guitar. I heard it on the radio. We only had one radio show once a week at the time, and me and my sister, we could stay up longer just to listen. It started at 8 o'clock, those were the days. And I heard the song in the top 10, and I started crying. And that was all along the Watchtower. And I asked a friend of mine in school, I knew he played a bit of guitar. I said, what kind of instrument was this? I heard this song last night, and he said it was an electrical guitar. That's how much I knew about it. So I said, that from then on, I knew, for my next birthday, I got an acoustic guitar. This is what I want to do.
Why do you think that so many guitar players around the world, many of the big rock stars, has made the Flying V their trademark?
It's a very flashy looking guitar. I mean, it had the nickname Flying Arrow. Would you open the window, please? You shoot it up to the moon, you throw it around, it flies very well, short distance though. And yes, it's a very special, simple shape, very flashy. It's right into your face, and that's why it looks good for the rock star, the posing rock star. You see some guitar players, the more introvert ones, you couldn't imagine Jeff Beck playing a Flying V. He's more into what he does at this moment. Some people run around and, this, and So it's a rock star guitar, I would say, for the posing rock star. But it's a beautiful instrument. It's well laid out, it's well balanced, and it sounds great, especially when you get a good one. This one is a very good one, and so I know it. I've been surrounded by flying V's. They sound great, and especially the ones from '58 or later on, some of the mid '60s, '67 are also great. And obviously the early 70s with the medallion are great. And the newer ones, it's hard to find a very good one. But it's a very good looking and unique looking guitar.
As we talked about before, the Flying V and the Explorer and the Modern is futuristic guitars.
Yes.
Made by Tim McCarthy, who was the president of Gibson at that time.
Yeah, good man.
Have you ever met him?
No, but I know pictures from him. I know
Yeah.
what he looks like or looked like.
He was into the future in his design, because at that time the most heavy stuff was blues and pop bands. There was no rock and roll bands playing with the V guitars.
No, of course not. I mean,
Albert King was one of the first one who got it as not a signature but a blues guitar.
yes. If you look at the designs from the 50s or whatever people thought about the 50s, the guitars in terms of shapes and colors, also the times also reflected on the cars. The Explorer shape and then the fins in the big like Cadillac cars, American cars, it's all like same thinking in terms of design. And then you look at the pastel colors, especially Fender came up with in the early 60s. You had the Daphne blue, and you had a turquoise kind of color. You had the pink, salmon pink. You had all the creamy pastel colors. Same on the cars. You Ford Thunderbird, like light blue, almost like Daphne blue. It was the same thinking of the American designers at the time, and nobody knew. It seemed to be so futuristic then. They are classic designs today. They are all-time classics. The Modern never made it. Probably because it has like the round edges, and those were the days of being like sharp-pointed Explorer, Flying V, and so those two really made it. They're all-time classics today. And but it's funny to see how one influenced the other. The car designers, the guitar designers, the shoe designers, and then those instruments. They had a hard time, especially the humbucking pickups had a hard time because it was more country and western and blues at the time, and nothing was distorted. It was all bang, 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 twang, twang, twang. And apart from the few bluesmen in America, it was basically the British rock in the 70s. I mean, without maybe George Harrison, Eric Clapton, and Jimmy Page later, the Les Paul would have never made it, because the Les Paul, for example, was sound-wise too boomy. There's nothing through a clean amp, and you couldn't play country with it. You couldn't play blues later on. Yes, they discovered that, but in the beginning, it was like the days of like Telecaster, Stratocaster, and ES models from Gibson. And then, what we consider the hard rock guitars today was basically invented by the British wave of rock that started in the late 60s.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned the pickups, because the pickups hasn't changed that much on the V guitar. They're mid sounds, and actually, if you play them without any effects and you just play them through a regular amp, they don't sound that much as, for example, the Les Paul pickups. And that's perhaps because it's a lot thinner body, but the wiring in the pickups is probably also a lot different from the Les Paul.
Yes, I mean, over the years, the original PAFs had a very low output. Like I have a 58 and a 59 Les Paul, They have something like 7.5, 7.8K. Those can have up to 15 or even 22 today. They're hot wired. When they were invented or like published, nobody really needed that. It was like, humbucking only because, the name says it already. It cuts out the humming. But back then, maybe in a TV studio, some bad wiring, and then the guitar started to hum. But nobody really had a high gain in his amp then. That came later. And only like if you have a single coil and a high gain amp, then you're in trouble. And you need something that, bucks the hum. That's why we have a humbucker. And yeah. And, so these guitars were really like very progressive, very forerunning. And looking into the future, because later on, of course, how could you... it's difficult still today with a single coil pickup and a big light show and some LED walls behind you to have a noise-free sound on stage. If you're loud and want to be crunchy, then that's very difficult because that's the nature of a single coil pickup. It works like an aerial, it picks up things. The sound of these pickups in like comparison to a Les Paul pickup, I think it's more the guitar than the pickup. You could probably take this out, put a Les Paul pickup in, it would be that different, only because there's a few wires. Some people, yeah, of course. But a pickup picks up what the guitar has to deliver, and that's the wood, that's the bridge, and that's the strings, of course, and because without a pickup, you can already tell if that's a good sounding guitar or not. That's the wood. It's just not, it doesn't have a hollow body, so it's not that loud. But if you listen carefully, it's still, you can tell, it resonates very well. And then comes Monsieur Pickup and picks up what you give him, and then it alters it a bit because you have a stronger magnet or like, more wires or less wires. And then, so it's the guitar that has this sound. And then there were days in the early 80s, everybody changed pickups, just to change pickups. Because a few pickup companies like DiMarzio and Seymour Duncan and all those, Mighty Might, they're coming up, and people took the Gibson pickups out and put those replacement parts in. I did the same. After a while, I threw them all out because it fit well with the original pickup. So, but those were the experimental days in the early 80s.
I think every guitar player is, when he is get to know his instrument, he starts to pull it together, pull it from each other, and replace and seeing his own sound. Huh? And that brings me to the guitar was almost forgotten after the start of the 60s. Nobody really played them. It was rediscovered in the middle of the 60s. Andy Powell, April Wine, Leslie West, Mountain, and of course Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
I remember he's playing a white model on the Isle of Wight concert, and is in tune because his Strat is not in tune for the half of the concert.
Yeah.
But it gets rediscovered in the middle of the 60s, and there you have experiments with effects and overdrive and boost and stuff like that. And then it comes into its right.
Yes, I mean, Hendrix, he's known for it because he's Hendrix. I don't know how many times he played a Flying V, probably 5 times, the most. Yeah. Maybe he, burned one of his Strats and give me any guitar. That happened back in the day. Same with Leslie West, I heard, he sold his guitars and sometimes couldn't find one in time for the next show. Anyway, the guitar became popular, and it has to do with its look a lot, because it's like good for posing for photos, TV show, it just, at the time, it was so unusual that somebody played a Flying V on stage. And probably the people around the player said, great, do that again. It looks fantastic. Or the photographer friends, yes, yes, yes. So it's a looker, but it's a good playing and good sounding looker, which makes it so successful.
Yeah. And that's why probably so many people are using it today and making their own signature models.
Yeah. I mean, that's...
I know that the KK Downing, he has around 118.
Wow.
He told me, and I consider that he was telling me the truth. 118 flying V's.
Yeah,
and
I think
5 or 6 of them is his signature from different periods. But he also started on the Strat.
Yeah.
It was a Strat, man.
Yeah.
And there's something special about these Strat guys.
I mean, the Strat is one of the classic guitars. It's if you look at the shape, I know we're talking about flying V basically, but the Strat is a genius invention with everything involved. Leo Fender was a genius. It's such a, like, the way it fits to your body, the way it looks, you can't get tired of that look. The Strat is the ultimate classic looking guitar to me. Les Paul is the counterpart. It's also like basically shaped like an acoustic guitar with one cutaway. So simple, but so genius. I mean, this is also genius, but it is like somebody thought about making it look flashy, being inspired by what was going on in the 50s.
We got a saying in Denmark, and probably you got a saying in Germany and all over the world, that the most conservative people on this planet is guitar players.
Yeah.
It's not very often that you trade your guitar for another guitar. You are stuck with that one.
Yes, that goes for some people.
But you're not.
No, on the other hand, I mean, I'm on stage, I play Explorers most of the time. But I learned, and not only because I'm sitting in my guitar store here, that guitar players, which is a good thing for a guitar store owner, they want basically everything. They want to change. They want the sound of a Les Paul, a Flying V, an Explorer, a Strat, a Telecaster, have to have one. And they want this and they want that. Bass players, you give them a second bass, just a spare instrument. They don't know what to do with it. Because their strings never break.
They cook the strings, man.
As we all did in the past. We cooked the strings, And, their strings never break, and they can, transpose. They don't have to have the open string for certain chords. They can, play in every way. And so, but guitar players, and, I'm one of them, I like to have different models for different sounds, for different aspects. Not so much on stage, because there you have your own look. But in the studio, you like to experiment and, have some odd instruments, have a resonator guitar, or we haven't even mentioned all the different acoustics there are. And you want to be able to deliver, you have an idea, you have a certain imagination about what it should sound like, and it's nice to have a guitar store in the studio. And when Rudolf and we went to Austria once to record in the late 90s, they'd never seen anything like it, because we brought not all of the guitars, but a lot, like a truck full. And it was nice. There's no guitar store in the world that has if we put our top guitars in one room. All the vintage stuff, the Flying V's, the Explorers, the Les Pauls, the ES335, 59, 58, everything. It's great.
James Hetfield told me that he also had a pretty nice collection. Metallica.
He had a nice collection. What did he do with it?
Yeah, he put it in a storeroom.
And then it got flooded.
No. They had just they keep them there.
Okay.
In a big storage.
Oh yeah, we have the same.
Yeah. Because if you bring them home, your wife will totally freak out. There's guitar all over.
Yeah, I know. But my wife wouldn't freak out. No. But of course, that is a bit of a shame. that if you have too many guitars, you can't play them all.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, and your house is not big enough to put them all on display. And it's better for the guitars anyway to stay in the case. So we have the same. We have like our guitars in cases, and they're in special containers, and the container is in the warehouse, and the warehouse is well hidden, and and so you don't see your guitars. You have a collection, but you don't. That's a bit of the problem. I have a few guitars at home, which when I'm in my studio I play all the time. But if it's only 10, you don't pick all 10 every day. You pick the one that is sitting there right next to you, and maybe another one. Yeah. So,
and that's a shame.
But what can you do? It's even worse with acoustic guitars, because they need to be played more than solid body guitars in order to sound good, to maintain their sound. Yeah. If you don't play them, they sound dead after a while, and you have to start playing them, for hours and hours and days. And if you have, like, let's say, a collection of 30 acoustic guitars, none of them will sound good because you don't have time enough to play each one of them. So it's better to have like 2 really and play them.
Guitars.
Yes. Said the owner of a guitar store. Erase that immediately.
I will erase it. No one will never seen it. Hello, you too. Okay. The sounds that you provide the Scorpions with, and is the trademark today?
Yes, I mean, when I joined the Scorpions, they were a great band, pretty popular, for those days. Nothing in comparison to today, of course, but they already left a certain mark, and they had some great albums out in the 70s, 4 or 5, I don't know exactly. But style-wise, Uli had his own style. He was very Hendrix-influenced, and he sang his own songs, his voice, okay? But, and then there was the other side, the Klaus and Rudolf side, so to speak. So the band never really had the one style. It was always something here and there, and I think that's difficult. When I joined, we found our style maybe not on the first album. It was the search for it. My influence was obviously, that we have a more compact sound. We sound like one unit and not like 2 different units. And I think we finalized the style in 1982 with Blackout, and from then on you could say this is the Scorpion style worldwide. I mean, to actually, now I'm in the band for 38 years. Uli, my predecessor, and friend, he was in the band 4 or 5 years, and Michael played on Lonesome Crow, was in the band for 1.5 years. So to me, he had no influence on Scorpions, because Lonesome Crow is really very different. It's their first album. Everybody was trying out to do something. He doesn't have any influence. Uli influenced the 70s until, I joined. And the rest, it's just me, I would say.
And I should say that you pulled it off pretty good together.
It seems to work.
So, this was actually the last question. No,
so you ran out of questions. You did not come prepared. What else is wrong with you?
No, but I think that it's interesting that you guys could keep up the spirit and provide such great music at so many years, because many bands quit at some times, but you didn't. And that's what makes you especially unique as a rock band, because a rock band will live for about 6 or 7 years, and then it will go apart.
Yeah, I mean, many bands break up or members leave because their own egos are in their way, and it either destroys the band, or you have a new drummer again, and you have a new bass player again, or whatever, and that is in the way. With the Scorpions, we found a good balance. and we're also one of the very few bands that really can play worldwide. We just finished a tour in Asia. I mean, we just played in Vietnam. We played in Australia for the first time. We played in New Caledonia, China, Japan, Taiwan, Singapore, Malaysia, everywhere. And not too many bands do this. After, we just played South America, all countries, and US anyway, Europe. We play everywhere.
Where do you find the energy to that?
It's because we like what we are doing. And, the audience, the fans, they give you the energy in case, your battery is low. You go on stage and they go, yeah. And then I give you a good example. Years and years and years ago, when we were very young and fresh, we are still fresh, but not so young anymore. But in 1982, we flew from California to Tokyo, and it was only one day off, basically the travel day. And so we had to play the next night, and we were all really tired. And we got these very nice looking backstage passes, like aluminum, like that, with a nice Japanese design. I went, oh, wow, that's good looking. And I asked the tour manager, what does this number mean at the bottom? 182. And he said, that's show number 182, dumbass. And I don't count shows, but I realized that night, being so tired, I realized, wow, it's show number 182 for us, and we are tired. But show number 1 for the fans waiting out there in the venue. So let's go and kick some ass. And that's what we always do.
That's the spirit.
Yeah.
That's the Scorpion spirit.
That's the Scorpions for you.
That's fantastic. And that's what drives musician.
Yeah. Also, we discovered different cultures, by traveling around the world so much and discovering new places. We just got offers to play on the Fiji Islands, Tahiti, all those places. It's interesting just because we haven't been there and we play to a whole new audience. It's also good to play Berlin for the 50th time, but to have the side effect of getting to a new country, like in Vietnam just weeks ago, it's fantastic,
But it got one thing in common, no matter where you play in the world, the audience know your songs.
Absolutely, the audience comes prepared. They know the songs. They're singing. They're dancing. They're screaming. That gives you the energy. That is what musicians love to do, and this is that makes you almost addicted. It's nice to have a break after a long tour, but it's after a while,
I know the
body and brain want some of that stuff
too, and you have a bad night, you have a headache, you have pain in your arm or something. These things just disappear.
They disappear because the adrenaline, flows your system, and then it's all you want to do. And I mean, you get the response, and a great response, immediately, instantly. And that's great. In the studio, even though I really love to create new things, you sit there and next to a boring engineer, and and the band, everybody's like this, and you have to wait until the album is finished, released, and then you get the first reactions. Before, you're making your own music go.
Engineers don't have no humor, man. They don't have no humor.
That's the problem with these guys.
That's why they're engineers.
Exactly.
Almost like drummers.
Yeah.
You took a selfie, right?
Yeah. Okay, Matthias, thank you so very much.
Thank you. Cool.
Oh, yeah.